Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I've been getting a lot of emails and questions lately and comments about the poverty in the Philippines and if that bothers me at all. If you've never been here and you aren't well traveled, like I've been all over the world, but a lot of people, they've never been any place but their home country, whether that's America or Europe or Australia, and they get to the Philippines and they're kind of shocked by the poverty here. It's not the kind of poverty that you see in America where there's fentanyl and encampments in downtown cities and drug addicts and crime and all that. It's just very poor people that are living on very, very small amounts of money per month. The average wage here is roughly around 300 pesos to 610 pesos a day. That works out to about $6 to $11 a day, depending on how you do the calculations. And so it's really low. Now my wife, when she was working before I met her, she was working, she had two different jobs. One, she was a maid, and she was making about $20 a week, working 7 hours a day, 7 days a week. And she did live with the people that she was working for. And then she worked at the mall, and she was making about $6 a day, working 6 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day. And that was about average. So it's really low here, and I've talked about it before. That's one of the problems in the Philippines, and that they need to do something to raise the wages up considerably so people can have a decent, lifestyle here. And that's why you see these small little houses everywhere. Some of them, they're not even really houses, they're shelters. It's cinder blocks with windows with no screens, no door, maybe a sheet over the door, no indoor plumbing. They're lucky if they have electricity. My wife didn't have electricity in her house when she was growing up, no indoor plumbing. To this day, they don't have indoor plumbing. But that's just the way it is here. And the thing is, the poverty here, even though you see it, the people seem to be happy. They're getting by. They're not, feeling sorry for themselves. They get up and do whatever they can to make a few pesos. But the question is does this poverty, is it a benefit to people like me that come here, to the foreigners who come to the Philippines, decide to retire here? Because the average foreigners, let's say Americans, for example, if you retired at 62 like I did, your Social Security is around, say, $1,200 to, say, $1,700 a month, maybe as high as $2,000 a month. And in America, if that was your only income, you'd be basically below the poverty line. You'd be living in a trailer someplace, and driving a 20-year-old car and counting every penny when you bought your groceries. Over here, that would be considered upper middle class if you had $1,700 to $2,000 a month coming in cash and didn't have any other responsibilities. And so when you come over here, you immediately increase your status and your social level. Immediately. It happens as soon as you get off the plane. All of a sudden, you're not that person that was barely getting by in America, Australia, or the UK. You're someone who's, financially stable instantly. And it's great for, your self-esteem and everything. All of a sudden, you can afford a nice place to live. Like we were talking about rent the other day, and you can live, I've got friends that have nice little apartments, 2-bedroom apartment. They're paying, $160 a month. I know people that have mansions on the beach much nicer than what I have, and they're paying $1,000 a month. I mean, what can you get in America for $1,000 a month? For $1,000 a month in the Philippines, you get a house with granite countertops and tile floors and private property right on the beach, all the amenities you'd expect in a modern house in America for roughly $1,000 a month. That's easily attainable here in the Philippines. And so the fact that these people here are living with so little, it drives down the cost of everything, especially labor. For example, you could get probably a live-in person to look after you, a caregiver is what they call it over here. You get a caregiver for probably $2 an hour. Someone who would move in to your house or apartment, give them their own room, they would cook for you, clean for you, get you to the doctor, take you to see your friends, look after you, and actually care for you, probably end up being your friend. And a lot of guys do that, especially the guys that are in their 80s and 90s. They get a caregiver, a companion, and they're paying that person to look after them, to be there if they need someone. And it's really helpful. If you fall down and you can't get up, you have someone who's living with you who you can call out to them, they come and help you, get you to the hospital, whatever needs to be done. And so, yes, in a way, the poverty of the Philippines benefits foreigners who decide to retire here. There's no doubt about that. I mean, you can, go to a doctor for $10. You can go to a dentist and get a root canal for 7,000 pesos, which is around, $120. You can get a porcelain crown for like 200 bucks, So all these things are way cheaper than they would be back in, especially in America. Now, it depends on if you're from Australia and England, you have some kind of socialized medicine. I have no idea what that costs. And so the other thing that pops up is that, does this poverty benefit the dating scene? And I would be dishonest if I said it didn't, because it obviously does. If you go to America, and let's say you've got a guy, he's, on a scale of 1 to 10 as looks, he's like a 3. He's overweight, maybe he's in his 50s or 60s, but he's got a paid off house. He's got, maybe $1 million in the bank. He's got like $10,000, $15,000 a month coming in. He's got no debts, no ex-wife, no kids. And he meets, a girl, say at the bar or the mall or wherever, and she's, say, 25, 30 years old. She's got, 2 children from a previous relationship. She's living on food stamps. She's barely getting by. She's really in a bad situation. And this guy pays attention to her, starts flirting with her, asks her out. Next thing you know, she goes out with him. Turns out, he's a really nice guy. He's a really nice guy. So they start having a relationship. Turns out he's really good to her children. Treats them really well. He takes her son to soccer practice, and teaches him everything he knows about business and different things and fixing stuff. And the kids just love him. They start calling him dad. And so eventually, she sees him for what he really is, which is a really good person. And next thing you know, she's in love with him. She really loves this guy. If you saw the two of them together, say, how could that attractive young woman love that old guy? Oh, it's just because he's got money. Yeah, that's true. That's what got her into the relationship to begin with. That's what made him appeal to her when she didn't know anything about him. But once she got to know him and once she moved in with him, everything changed. She, fell in love with him. And this happens rarely in America, I know that, but it happens all the time here. These guys come over here. I talk to them all the time, and they're in their 60s, 70s. A lot of them have not been on a date in years, sometimes 20 years, 30 years. They haven't even been on a date. And they come over here and they've got, some money, not a lot. They've got maybe, 100 grand in the bank. They've got their Social Security. Maybe they got, 1,000, 2,000 a month coming in there. Then they've got maybe a little pension coming in. So they're doing well financially for the Philippines. They're doing fantastic. And so they rent themselves a nice apartment. They buy themselves a little car or a motorcycle, whatever. And they start finding out that these girls that are, beautiful and young are very interested in them. And obviously it's because they're successful. That's why. That's the reason. We all know that. That's not a lie. That's why they want to go out with this guy, because he's going to totally change their life and maybe the life of their whole family. And so she gets involved with this guy, and turns out, like the same guy in America, he's a really nice guy. I mean, he's really in love with her. Maybe she's got 1 or 2 kids, from a previous relationship. And he treats them fantastic, takes care of them, puts them in school, buys them clothes. He's just a really good stepfather. And they end up moving together, they get married, and things just keep getting better and better for her and her children. And next thing you know, because she married him or started dating him because he was well off financially. She didn't, he's an older guy, not the best looking guy in the world, nothing to look at. Women never even noticed he was invisible in America. But comes over here and he's got this girl, and next thing you know, she's really in love with this guy. She's actually in love with him, and he knows that, and he treats her that way. And you see this a lot. And I know that these girls really do love these guys because I see it when they die. Because I met several women whose husbands they've been with for like 10 years, 15 years, and he gets into his 80s or 90s and he passes away. And he left her, financially well off. She doesn't have to date anybody, she doesn't have to work, she's set, her children are set. But still she's devastated by the loss of him. She just cries all the time how much she misses him and how much she loved him. And that wow, she really did love him, because she's fine. You'd think that when he died, she'd be jumping for joy because she can date some younger guy. She's got all this money. She's all set. She's got a paid-for house, but that's not the case. She's actually devastated by the loss of him. And so I see it all the time. And yes, it's true that, the original attraction might have been financial. And that's true, I think in any country in the world this happens. But later on, especially I'm talking about, my friends. I have a lot of friends my age. Almost all of them are in relations. They're either married or they're in a long-term relationship. And I see how these girls treat these guys. And I see what happens when one of them passes away. And they love these guys. They really do love them. It's real, it's genuine. And there's a lot of criticism online about these guys dating, younger girls. And they say, they're just taking advantage of them. And that's really not the case. They're over here looking for love. It's not about sex. They think it is. Everybody thinks it's all about sex. But anybody out there who's in their 60s knows that sex kind of is not like on your mind all the time like it was when you were in your 20s. It's just not that big a deal. Companionship's more important. Being with someone you enjoy being with is more important. Someone that fulfills your life and looks after you, somebody that really cares for you. And that's another thing is these relationships. And like I said, I know so many guys that are in these kind of relationships. And these women look after them. They make sure they take their medications. They care for them. And they really do love them. And so poverty, yes, had something to do with the relationship, no doubt about it. And then, of course, we talk about when I say we should they should raise their wages for Filipinos here and change their lives. What I hear a lot of times, the guys say, well, don't do that. It's going to ruin our life. It's going to make things more expensive. My rent's going to go up if the wages go up here, and the cost of food's going to go up and everything. It's going to affect me. And it's so selfish to say that. I mean, these guys got 10 times more than the average Filipino, and they're concerned about their $300 a month rent going up to $400, because all of a sudden we're paying people, a fair wage over here. And yes, the poverty benefits, people over here like me. Look where I live. I could not afford anything like this in America, anywhere in America, nowhere. Even when I was at my top peak of my income, at the peak of my career, making more money than I ever made in my life, I couldn't afford a place like this, living on the ocean, anywhere in America. I never reached that stature or that status. And here, got this beautiful place, on the beach, wonderful neighbors and friends and everything. So it's because of, the cost of living here in the Philippines. And maybe it'll change. You look at Vietnam, look at Thailand, look at Malaysia. Those countries are doing great. They're booming. And I think someday, they'll change the laws here where you can buy land without having a Filipino involved. Different opinions on that, some pro, some con. I think, getting money flowing into any country is not a bad thing. Lots of money's flown into America. It hasn't destroyed America. You got Chinese buying up farmland and, wealthy people buying up, buildings on Park Avenue, and it hasn't destroyed America. So I don't think it would destroy the Philippines either. If all of a sudden other countries were able to invest here and build businesses here and have corporate headquarters and factories here, I think it would be a good thing, not a bad thing. And yeah, it would raise wages, and maybe someday a place that I'm living in now would double in rent. And I'd be fine with that, if it helped the people here. Because, my son's going to be half Filipino. My wife's Filipino, and her whole family, and a lot of my friends are Filipinos. I want to see them have a better life. So I don't want to see this country stuck in poverty for the next 50 years. All the other countries in Asia are booming, and there's no reason why the Philippines can't do the same thing. A lot of these countries like China, they're doomed because they don't have the demographics. They don't have the young people to work. There's just not enough people. And that's true with a lot of countries, even in Europe, like Italy, for example. We're over here, the average age of Filipinos, like 27, 28 years old. You go out here around lunchtime, that's when the kids get out for school for lunch, and you drive around Dumaguete, and all you see is hundreds and hundreds of children of all ages, little kids, teenagers, all over the place, just kids everywhere. There's a very young country, and they're teaching them English in school. And so you just think of the opportunity for some company to come over here and open a factory. You've got educated young people eager to work. That'll work for still a low wage, way lower than what they would make in America or Europe. But if you made it triple what it is now, people would be lining up to work here, good people. And so, the poverty, in the Philippines made it possible for me to come here. I admit that. I came here and I was getting by on like $600 a month. And I paid my rent, had a little studio apartment, rented a little crappy scooter to get around on for $100 a month. I didn't eat out at all. All my food I bought at the local grocery store, like chicken and pork, and cooked it myself and made my own meals, made casseroles and things that would last for a few days. But I was able to pay my bills and get by, and then slowly things got better and better and better. And but I wouldn't have even been able to get my foot in the door if it hadn't have been for the poverty here and the cost of living. And so I admit that, but that doesn't mean I want to see it stay that way. And I'm not concerned about my cost of living going up. And things aren't really that cheap here. Not everything. Like gas is probably more here than it is in America. I think electricity is more here than it is in America. Taxes are way lower. And the big thing we save money on here is medical care, dental care, and of course rent. That's the big thing we save the most money. As far as buying property, I can't really get in that because I don't really know enough about it. But as far as rent, and there's 7,000 islands here, so there's plenty of places to get a place on the beach if that's what you want, or up in the mountains. A lot of my friends like to live in the mountains. So basically, that's it. Yes, it's true, foreigners, expats, people like me, benefited from the poverty in the Philippines, no doubt about it. That's the only reason I was able to come here and survive. But that doesn't mean I'd like to see it stay that way. I really wouldn't. I'd like to see this country develop and grow and become prosperous. And so, if you're thinking about coming here, it's not going to cost you that much. If you've got, say, $1,200 to $2,000 a month steady income with no other expenses, and maybe a few $1,000s in cash that you can, put a deposit down in an apartment, buy yourself some kind of transportation, and get yourself set up, you'll be fine here. You really will. Where in the world can you live on that kind of income? You can't have a decent lifestyle here for just a few $1,000s a month, $2,000 a month. You can't do that. And if you got more than that, you can live like a king over here. So anyway, that's that. Again, if you want to be on the show, my email address is in every single video. If you just click more, down there by my PayPal is my email address. Send me an email if you're going to be in Dumaguete, and we'll get together for coffee. And if you want to be on the show, we can talk about it. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you're a subscriber, I really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. Bye.